So there was a name that I added to my list about three-quarters of the way through the process that I never saw coming. And the backstory is that I became friends with this kid in sixth grade science class. We were sat together by Mort Stein at the same table, and he was just like my closest guy friend all through high school. And I was probably closer to my girlfriends, but when it came to boys who I could go to for advice for, for anything, he was always there for me. And we were part of a group of like a co-ed group of friends that did tons of stuff together. This is again growing up in the early 80s in upstate New York. Our parents did not know what we were doing. He was part of the group that I got up to shenanigans with no sense from my parents of where we were at any given time. But he was just like one of my best friends. We had a lot of classes together. He and I both were writers, so we took AP English together. We took, AP social science. Anyway, we were together a lot. And he just was that guy, like I felt super comfortable around him, could talk to him about boy problems, could talk to him about school problems, parents, whatever. We even went to church together. And when we graduated, we kept in touch a little. We went to different colleges, kept in touch a little bit during the college years. And then after college, he just cut me off. He stopped communicating with me in any way. And that whole rest of the group of people who I stayed in touch with knew what he was up to. They knew where he lived. They knew who he was dating, all this stuff. And I just never heard from him. And of course, this was also pre-cell phone days, pre-email, pre-texting, obviously. So it was easier to fall out of touch in those days, but it still hurt. And it's still, every time I would try, like I'd see his mom at church and I'd say, can I get his address? I'll send him a card. And she'd, oh, sure. Yeah, here it is. And he wouldn't respond. Or I knew at one point he was living in North Carolina and I was passing through there on the way to visit some relatives and I called him, didn't call me back, and it was just weird. And so it was, it was a loss that I kind of felt subconsciously, I think, for a long time. So, I spent quality time nurturing resentment toward him, because I couldn't figure out what I'd done wrong. And I'm a third kid. I'm a people pleaser. I'm like, what did I do? Everybody should like me. What's wrong? And so then I'm writing, but I was whatever. I got married. I moved, I had lots of friends. I didn't think about him every day. And then I'm writing these letters. And first of all, I realized that every time I wrote a letter to someone, it was a chance for me to reflect back on all the good that people had brought into my life in a really specific way, because I had a couple of rules for myself. And I give all these in the book too. I try to make it really easy for a reader to do these kinds of letters themselves. But one of the things that I think matters is specifics and saying you're not just like, you're nice, but you lent me a car when I was late for a job interview, or you always rewrote my resume for me, or, you gave me a recipe that is my favorite thing to eat that's not organic Trader Joe's Fritos. And as I was doing that unwittingly, I was strengthening the neural pathways in my brain that were helping me recognize positive things around me and strengthening my positive recall bias. So I got to the end of the friends and family letters, and then I was writing to, the doctor who delivered my children, because if you talk about somebody who's shaped your life, a healthy birth of your two daughters definitely counts. And then I was writing to the guy at the supermarket who always smiles, now underneath his mask, but gave me change, would cover me if I forgot my wallet. And just like it just kept getting more expansive. And all of a sudden I thought at some point, I don't have to send the letters. I feel good. All those good feelings I get from having written the letters, this better sleep and this kind of sense of peace and well-being, it's when I write the letters. It's not when the person receives them. And that's like the cherry on top. I loved hearing back from people who had received my letters, but it was not, my good feelings were not conditioned on that. So I was like, wait a minute, if I don't have to send the letters to feel good, I could write to people who I'm not in touch with, who have changed my life in some significant way. And his name popped right up because I thought, we're not friends now, but back in high school, when I needed a friend, when I needed good advice, he was always there for me. And so my process with this book it being a weekly letter, I would kind of spend all week just thinking about that person and what experiences do we share? What things have they taught me? What are the pieces of advice that I still use that they've given me? And again, even if you're not writing the letter, that's still doing that conditioning of the neural pathways and strengthening those paths in your brain that help you focus on positive things. So I just spent the week thinking about it. And at the end of the week, when I was ready to sit down and write, I thought, it's not weird that he stopped being friends with me in high school. It's weird that he stayed friends with me all the way to the end of high school because he was a better friend to me than I was to him. All these pieces of advice he gave me, all these ways that he supported me, I took for granted. And so, in writing all of that down, not only did I forgive him completely for not staying in touch, I felt I had to really sit with a sense of shame, which sometimes comes up in these letters, and I think it's not a bad thing. I knew that if, I could have done better. I was whatever. I was a kid. It's a long time ago now, but looking back, I recognize that I could have done better. And so, that was just one of the biggest examples of how forgiveness and gratitude are really tightly coupled that I never expected. And that letter was kind of profound for me because I was like, you know what? I don't have to be mad at him anymore. I can let it go. So, who do you think reached out on Facebook 3 weeks after that letter? And I didn't send it, I still have it sitting here in my office. He reached out and said, "Hey, how you doing? What's up?" And I know for a fact that if I had not taken the time to think through all of those things and to write it down in this letter, I would not have been happy to hear from him. I would have still been mad. I would have been like, you know, do we work blue here? Are you going to bleep me out if I use if I drop the F bomb? Screw you. Like, you didn't talk to me for all those years. You don't get to talk to me now. But instead, I was so overjoyed to hear from him. I really felt like, how cool, this is great. And our friendship has been resuscitated, and we text a lot. Having him back as somebody who I can be in touch with on a regular basis has really been one of the nicest things about being in my 50s. And I would not have gotten there without writing that letter. So I think the way that the gratitude letters and gratitude exercises can shift your perspective and change the way not you think about not just past relationships that you may have considered bad relationships or that were legitimately bad relationships, but all kinds of experiences in your life. You can look back with that lens of time and say, oh, but I learned this, or I got this out of it, or yeah, maybe I deserve that. Maybe it's a really powerful way of shifting perspective, I think.